Okay, let's talk about JSON. Who's using JSON on a somewhat regular basis? How about XML and SOAP? Ah, brave souls that say that. Yes, that's good. So JSON, JSON we've always used. Does anybody know? Newtonsoft, the famous Newtonsoft JSON serializer, deserializer, parser, all the stuff that Newtonsoft brought to the table. They have officially been fired, I guess. And their stuff has been dropped from the core piece of .NET. Oh, that's what they just bought them. Of course, if in doubt, buy it. So they've added, so the UTF-8 JSON reader and the UTF-8 JSON writer are kind of the two core pieces of functionality that they brought to the table to do this. And essentially, these are somewhere, I mean, there's some debates between 30% and 100% faster than the counterparts. And the real key here is they wanted to use UTF-8 internally. So all strings represented by UTF-16, which are 2 bytes all the time. And they wanted to be able to use less memory when they're doing these operations and use UTF-8 instead, where it only uses extra bytes if you actually need the extra bytes in the string, rather than just essentially if you're dealing with ASCII or something like that, you have double the amount of characters that you need as far as bytes stored in memory. And almost everything that comes in off the web is coming in UTF-8. I mean, there's tons of stuff comes in UTF-8. Why bother to do all these transitions? And so they did this. The key piece here is the JSON document, which is your document reader. And then there's also the JSON serializer and deserializer, which I'll show you in just a second. So let's pop over here, take a look at the serializer and deserializer. So here's the document test. And this is just a really simple, here's Peter Parker, Spider-Man, his enemies. And we're going to take this and throw it into a JSON document. We're going to parse that out, and we're going to pull out this particular property name and pull out what the name is and say it is equal to Peter Parker. And it's going to handle our array just like we would expect it to do. And this is much like the XML one that's been available for a very, very, very long time. Works kind of the same way. It's going to give you back a root node. You can navigate from there. The other one is the serializer. And so here, I'm creating a superhero object, an ID, an alias, and their super name. And I added some enemies here. And I serialize over here to, I serialize the super into the super JSON. And then I make a copy of that. And then I just make sure that they're the same. So it's really pretty simple, simple serialize, deserialize. Now, there's some limitations that haven't been fixed yet. So there are some serialization challenges with nullable. When we get into the nullability stuff, which we're unfortunately not going to cover a lot, we probably need to do a whole, one of these evenings and just cover nullability. Because while it sounds really simple, hey, we're just going to make it so that reference types can't be nullable by default, there's really a whole bunch of stuff that you have to start doing to make that really work well. Because I modified my project, said, oh, I'm just going to turn on all this stuff, and there's lots of warnings and things that were telling me I was doing it wrong, and things that, if I have time, I'll just cover them real briefly. But yeah, anyway, it gets to be a little bit complicated, especially when it comes to, if you don't have nullable types, you have to have a constructor that sets all of your types or initializers on each property to set those types to be whatever value they're going to be, so they're not null. The serializer needs a parameterless constructor. It fundamentally breaks some of those other things. So thinking through some of these issues. It also does not handle reference loop handling well. You know how the Newtonsoft, if you've used any kind of a complicated object model where you have a parent has reference to a collection of children, and guess what? The children have a reference to the parent. And so you have this thing, and it starts to serialize, and all of a sudden, this blows up after 1,000 iterations, where the Newtonsoft one actually has a parameter you can set. And say, whenever you loop around, either reference or just drop it. So that's not here yet. I would expect it soon, but it's not here yet. So anyway, just FYI, this is the standard serializer moving forward. So I think Microsoft has done a good job, and they'll embrace this thing. But it's just a couple little things that are there. Yeah, go ahead.
So your slide talks about UTF-8 JSON. Your demo I had a system.text JSON.
Oh, did I not?
UTF-8 JSON is a third party serializer, right?
Oh, I'm not using those. These are the underlying readers underneath that this uses. I'm actually not showing you the UTF-8 one. It's using the UTF-8 one. The UTF-8 reader and writer really more primitive than these higher level abstractions of the serializer, the deserializer, and the document. Those use the UTF-8 reader and writer. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I didn't have an example of those.
There's also another third party out there called UTF-8 JSON.
It, probably so.
Even faster than text.
Okay. Maybe so. I haven't seen that one. I haven't used it. So. Okay.